Okay. In honor of our Folklore Agreement of valuing process over product, I'm going to be facilitating a dialogue between two of our second-year fellows around the process of their inquiries this year. This will give you all a chance to hear not only how two folks are thinking about their inquiries, but it'll also give you a snippet into their journey and model for you how you might want to talk to your own site leaders about what you are thinking around your inquiries. So without further ado, I want to introduce two of our second-year fellows. Kara Fleshman is on her fourth year at Lazier in East Oakland / Fruitvale / Jingletown neighborhoods, teaching art, science, social studies integration classes to all TK and second grade classes. And then Fatima Salahuddin, who is not only a master's in education, but is also a 10th and 12th ELA ethnic studies teacher at Fremont High School, formerly Roots teacher, also a community responsive education teacher fellow. And the first question I want to go ahead and start with y'all, and anyone can start first, is just what is the story of your inquiries?
You want to start, Kara?
And Kara, if you want, I can also share your slides. I got them ready.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Go for it, Fatima.
Okay. Well, I didn't send you anything, so I went back to I'm gonna talk this out. I went back to my special sauce slide, which I have. I could share. Can I share right now? I've been having a lot of conversations with my assistant principal. So let me go back. What I shared last week, I've been able to get all this feedback from my kids, and my kids have shared that they feel that my class is really, really engaging for them, right? So I've been thinking like, well, what really is it that I do that gets them engaged? So I mean, it did start with this, right? And my assistant principal pulled me into a meeting to say, hey, help plan this PD that we're doing that we did a couple weeks ago. And maybe we can share some strategies of what you do. So, okay, so there's that part. Then I thought about who am I as a maker-centered learning teacher? So I always go back, and I'm so grateful to have experienced this fellowship in person. I always go back to that activity that we did that went over that table on page 44, that went over the strategies for what a maker-centered, how to design maker-centered learning and environments. And that's in page 44. Everybody, it looks like this. Right. And we did this really dope activity where we moved around the room. We had these different stations, and it really got me thinking. And to me, this is kind of like the core, the foundation, like these facets here. So yeah. And then I started to think about, well, how do these things, how does this look in distance learning? And how am I bringing my special sauce to these different strategies? Are these different strategies even possible? Right. So that's kind of where I've stuck. And I'm going to stop there because I think I talked too much.
Never. Thank you, Fatima. All right, Kara, what is the story of your inquiry?
Okay, I made a slide too, just to not, but it says I can't share.
Sorry, I stopped.
Oh, cool.
Got you.
Look at that. Ooh. Yeah, I put this together just to keep my brain centered because it's still all formulating. But right now, what I'm sort of processing is that I'm teaching 150 students, or I'm sort of responsible for teaching electives for 150 students. But I only see my students once a week for 4 weeks total out of the whole year, for 30 minutes. So with that, I'm just thinking about how can I create independent work and sort of pour myself into their independent work, and given their kindergarten through second grade. So how can I create independent work that isn't an added burden on families? It doesn't feel like more of a stress of something they just have to complete for compliance's sake. But it's fun and enriching and challenging and inspiring, and sort of like brings the life that we had in my classroom into their homes. And offers multiple modalities that's arts and history integrated, grounded in ethnic studies, social justice frameworks, because so much of what we did in a classroom was so focused in all of these things. But it's, when we're not really fully fleshed out as a project-based school, and when I'm just sending things home, I'm trying to think about how to do all this without just sending a packet of worksheets that families feel stressed about having to take pictures of and upload. So how to make it more than that. And I'm glad, Fatima, that you showed those makers-centered learning. Look at me go. Strategies. Thank you, Brooke. Yeah, just fold these strategies into like two-dimensional learning.
Thank you both so much. It sounds like both of you are just creating such a student-centered focus in terms of where you want to go with your inquiries. What are you both curious about trying out with your students for the rest of the year?
I think so. The main thing I'm really curious about, because you know, one rabbit hole will lead you down another, right? So on page 44, it talked about who and what are the teachers in a maker-centered classroom. And it highlighted students, it highlighted the community, but what happens when online source sharing is the only teacher now, right? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, if there's this huge barrier, right? If this whole box up here is just this one thing now, right? Where's the thing at? Yeah, this one thing. What happens to maker-centered learning? How can I measure that? Or how can I even identify what that is or what that looks like? And then somewhere there's this other facet that to me doesn't connect. How do I put in a thinking routine into this, right? Kind of in the same way that I did in my other one, where, you know, my students were the teachers, but then I was like, how do I connect this to a thinking routine where I had them just, you know, do a think, feel, care of stepping inside a teacher. And then I had this new theme around empathy in addition to, like, you know, redirecting power and authority. So that's kind of where, like, what I'm most curious about is like, exploring this, like, should we look closely at the computer? Should we look closely at, like, you know, how online sourcing is just shifting maker-centered learning altogether, you know? So I'm not even sure what I want to try, but I know it involves a thinking routine, and I know I want to delve deep into, like, this is the teacher, this is the only teacher now. Like, I can technically teach you guys, but this computer physically is there and not me anymore, right? And how does that shift and even destroy some of these strategies in some ways, I feel like. So that's kind of where I'm at in my rabbit hole.
It's a beautiful rabbit hole. And Kara, what are you interested in, curious about trying with students?
I've been thinking a lot about media that teaches, and like, I'm not a theatrical person. I don't like to be on screen. But I feel like when I'm sending out lessons to my students, in my mind, I want them to be like Bill Nye and Blue's Clues, where students are like talking back to the lesson. It's super engaging and educational, and not just like time wasting distraction type of stuff, because I know there's a lot of materials and resources out there that are like, follow along and draw this. But as an art teacher, it's hard to find like pre-made videos that are really integrating science and history and art and getting you up and doing something and experimenting. So I've been trying to teach myself to make videos, and I've been making a lot of you know, learning iMovie and YouTube and all of that kind of thing, and trying to make slideshows that go really fast so it looks like it's animated. I'm very not tech savvy, but I'm trying to push myself to create resources for the students and then work on the format of how they get their information. And then on top of that, to then layer in, like Fatima, you were just saying, the thinking routines. Because last year we did a lot with systems thinking, but I didn't have to mess so much with the format because they just showed up to my room every day. So right now I'm trying to put in like choice boards to start sort of a habit and a pattern of students like getting to choose what they want to work on, and just knowing that every day I get to spend 20 minutes doing something creative. And then sort of in that process right now of just communicating that with families, like it could look any way you want it to look. It's super flexible. So then once that's there, I want to start filtering in thinking routines to then build towards this larger unit I have planned for the end of the year. So
thank you so much. Those are both amazing. Like I'm hearing you both say a lot about kind of putting yourself out there, stepping into the unknown. Like you mentioned rabbit hole a few times, Fatima, and just like you might not know exactly what you're going to do, but just putting yourself out there and trying, and getting feedback from students along the way about how they're experiencing it. We don't have a lot of time left, but I did want to also ask, like, have you all used the mini maker grants that we have been offering? And if so, how have you used them?
Yes, we did. Thank you so much. My students are like, "Oh my God, you spoil us." I'm like, I can't take credit. but anyways, I am trying to get my English students to read something. So the grant was able to, I created this theme in my class called we're reading the word in the world, but we have we're calling them power books, which is another term I found from other teachers because I hate SSR, but positive outcomes while enjoying reading. So they're going to use these books to do some weekly readings, and then they're going to use these books to complete some weekly kind of sentence manipulation grammar worksheets where they pull passages from the book that they're reading, and they take sentences and they manipulate them by changing the different parts of speech and identifying the different parts of speech. But yeah, I actually have, it's so funny, I have all this stuff here. We get pens for them, little journals, some bookmarks, these really dope Black Lives Matter stickers that they hella just are juiced to have, but I'm in the process of sending them all out Friday. And the kids are so excited. They're just like, "Oh my God, you're buying me a book and I can't wait to get my book," because I just want them to enjoy what they're reading and then us to practice some skills to build our grammar. So
Yes, that sounds amazing. I want a power book. And Kara, have you also used a mini maker grant?
Yeah, I have. I just did it really simple, trying to keep things simple. So I got everybody a watercolor set and a Sharpie and like multiple pages of watercolor paper. And then I bought myself a book, which I really recommend to read and teach to the kids. Can I share it really quick just to show it? Okay. This book I love, I Am Saucil Creek. And so we're going to read that, which talks about the history of Oakland through the perspective of Saucil Creek since before colonization. And then this book that I just was introduced to by somebody, which is looking at sort of gentrification in a neighborhood through the eyes of Naomi. And so the grant really just covered the paper and the watercolors, but it's something exciting to make the project feel more than just like draw and color it in with crayons. And so I'm hoping that we're going to have the students create 2 different art pieces and then collect them and do a little showcase at school and potentially try to sell them to raise some money for organizations that are working on housing issues in Oakland right now. So yeah, that's it.
That's dope. Thank you all so much. And like how humanizing, right? To like be given like new awesome materials. And I know as a teacher, we feel that way too when we're given things by our school sites that aren't old. So thank you both so much for sharing the process of your inquiries. I encourage other fellows, if you have any questions, to private chat or reach out. You are also going to get a chance to plan with your